Hey guys, it's Sean O'Connell, the managing director here at Cinema Blend, and like most of you guys, I'm really looking forward to the new Breaking Bad film, El Camino, that's going to star Aaron Paul and come from Vince Gilligan. But it's probably been several years since you guys have paid attention to what happened when Breaking Bad was coming to a close. So I'm here to update you on all of the major things that you need to remember before you watch El Camino on October 11th.
You ready? Yeah.
Before we do that, though, do me a favor, go down and hit subscribe. Also, turn on your notifications because every time that we put a new video on our YouTube page, we want you guys to hear all about it. Naturally, I'm going to get into a million spoilers from the way that the television show Breaking Bad ended because I have to discuss specific details before we go into El Camino. If you're watching this video, I'm going to assume that you've already seen Breaking Bad and you're interested in El Camino because this movie really, Vince Gilligan has said, is made for the fans who want to know where the story goes. But official warning in place, this is going to contain several spoilers for Breaking Bad, so get out right now if you don't want to know how that show ended. So, here are the major things that I think you need to know before you press play on El Camino on October 11th. First and foremost, you have to be reminded that Walter White, played by Bryan Cranston, is dead. He attacked the base that was being held down by the neo-Nazis in an effort to not only stop those guys, but to free his former assistant, Jesse Pinkman. Jesse had been kidnapped and was being held hostage by the neo-Nazis and forced to cook the meth that he and Walter were making for all those years. So in an effort to free Jesse, Walter stormed the compound with a machine gun packed into the back of his car, took out most of the neo-Nazi teams led by Jack, and let Jesse go free. However, Jesse realized over the course of their final confrontation that Walter had been injured by the bullets that were flying around in that attack and that he was going to die on his own power. And it's worth mentioning too that Walter gave Jesse the opportunity to kill Walter himself, to finally get him back for all the things that Walter had done to Jesse over the years, but Jesse couldn't actually do it and figured he would let Walter die from his own wounds. But Walter, by all accounts, is absolutely dead. Truthfully, I am convinced, personally, that Bryan Cranston is going to end up being in El Camino. I can't see why Vince Gilligan would come back for a Breaking Bad movie and not figure out some way to use Walter White.
You're goddamn right.
While I believe that the character is completely dead and gone and that we watched him die in the season finale or the series finale of Breaking Bad, Gilligan will figure out some way to bring Cranston and Walter White back, whether it's through a flashback or some sort of scene where Jesse is basically just reminiscing about his brutal time with Walter, giving us the chance to see Bryan Cranston in at least one or two more scenes in the character. The second point you need to remember is that Jesse Pinkman is now free. He's free of Walter White, he's free of the neo-Nazis that were holding him hostage, and he's free from the meth trade. The very last scene that we saw of Jesse as he sped away from Walter is him breaking out of the fence chain that was holding him back in that compound, driving the El Camino that will be the title of the new movie in the Breaking Bad series. So again, Jesse was being held hostage by the neo-Nazis and forced to cook meth.
Everyone knows that.
He has been released by Walter White, and we actually see him sort of break out into a laugh, almost a joyous laugh, as he suddenly realizes all of the oppression and the emotional weight that had been laying on top of him for 5 seasons is finally starting to come off of him, and that's what we assume that this new movie is going to get into, Jesse trying to get himself out of the shadow of Walter White. Now, he's not exactly emotionally free, because I think the psychology of everything that Jesse had to go through over the course of 5 seasons will completely still be plaguing him as we get into El Camino, because you have all of these horrific things that he witnessed, from the death of Drew, the innocent boy who watched them hijack the train, to of course Walter admitting to being there to watch Jane die, and Brock, the poisoned kid that Walter took down in order to get Jesse back on his side. All of these demons are still going to be wrestling with Jesse, and I can't wait to see how Aaron Paul sort of plays with that character, trying to distance himself from all of the awfulness that he saw with Walter and start a new life.
You can't keep getting away with it!
Let's get back to the El Camino that Jesse uses to drive away from the neo-Nazi compound, and it actually belongs to a character named TODD, who had been particularly horrible to Jesse while he was in confinement. And it's worth remembering that not only did TODD die, but Jesse was the one who strangled him. So Jesse is also very capable of some horrific acts, and I think he's going to sort of be wrestling with the fact that he is, of course, a murderer too, by taking TODD out directly in the series finale. It is TODD's El Camino that Jesse drives off on, and there are shots in the trailer that almost make it look like Jesse may be seeking revenge revenge against the Nazis. However, I'm not sure how many of them are left after Walter's attack on the compound, because that machine gun that he packed in the back of the car took out almost everybody who was available there. But this could be a much bigger organization that Jack was part of, and maybe Jesse feels like he needs to, after taking out Todd, go back and get vengeance against all the people that almost ruined his life and kept him in captivity for all that time. There are 2 familiar faces that we saw in the El Camino trailer, and we've been hearing that there are up to 10 Breaking Bad characters that are going to show up in El Camino, but 2 of them in particular that we've already seen are Badger and Skinny Pete. These are the guys who hung out with Jesse and were introduced to Walter and the meth trade through Jesse's friendship. We do see them in the series finale, as they are the ones who essentially point Walter White in the direction of Jack and his Nazi compound. Well, they show up in the El Camino trailer also and are stunned to find out that Jesse Pinkman has broken free from the Nazi compound. I'm sure that he'll tell them that it was Walter who helped him get free, and they may even want to try to sort of lure Jesse back into his criminal ways, because they were part of the ones who got him involved in the drug trade in the first place. But we can at least confirm that Badger and Skinny Pete, who were around for the series finale, are still going to be part of the world in El Camino and hopefully helping Jesse get reintegrated into the world. So much of the resolution of Breaking Bad led to how Walter White was going to put a button on his life, whether he was giving money to Skyler and Walt Jr. or taking care of the baby, where he was going to be stashing the rest of his money, setting up a payment for gray matter. All of these things had to do with putting Walter's life back in order before he went after Jack and the neo-Nazis. There's a lot of questions still lingering about what's going on with Jesse, however, and I expect them to be answered in El Camino, because a big one that's hanging over all of these characters is where is the rest of Walter White's money?
Where's my money, bitch?
The neo-Nazis had taken some of it, and in one of his last-ditch efforts, Jack tried to convince Walter that he could tell him where the money was before Walter really decided in the series finale that that wasn't important to him anymore, and he just ended up killing Jack. However, there's a shot in the new trailer for El Camino that shows Jesse in the desert digging up something that's buried underground, and it was hinted at in some of the final episodes of Breaking Bad that Walter might have buried his money in the desert. That set up the confrontation between Jack and what led to the death of Hank, actually. So that money might still actually be buried in the desert, though it was never confirmed. It would be great in El Camino to see if Jesse was risking everything to sort of go after Walter's money, because I think it's money that people who watch Breaking Bad think that he might be entitled to due to everything that he suffered through, but I'm not quite sure if he knows exactly where it is, so that's kind of up to the movie to answer it for us. Naturally, for a show that ran for 5 seasons, there are several subplots that they could pick up from the Breaking Bad series and bring over to the new film, but I really just want to find out what happens to Jesse following the series finale in the events of El Camino. The movie is going to reach Netflix on October 11th, and it'll also be playing in a limited theatrical run, so make sure you check your local listings. Finally, it will be on AMC Network sometime at a later date after it has its Netflix run. For more on Breaking Bad and El Camino, make sure that you keep it right here on Cinema Blend by going down and hitting subscribe, turning on your notifications, and that way every time we post a new video, you will be alerted to it immediately.
Yeah, bitch!